The Department of Education is rolling out a historic $500 million for charter schools, just as political discourse on college campuses enters a new chapter following the death of Charlie Kirk. For analysis, we welcome Aaron Boxer, a former special education teacher and now CEO of Diversified Education Services. Aaron, welcome. The Department of Education recently announced a record $500 million for charter school programs. From your perspective, as a former special education teacher, what potential impact could this funding have?
Thanks. It's great to be here. Parents need real choices, and too many families are stuck in these failing schools. So charter schools have shown that they can raise achievement, and it's often at a lower cost. So investment expands that works instead of funding that same broken system.
And do you think it will bring any drawbacks, or have you seen any notable pushback against this?
There's always pushback on charter schools. It's something that deviates from the typical union-funded schools. But no, this will empower families. The money will follow the student. If public schools want to keep enrollment, they have to deliver. And competition drives accountability. That's what's really healthy for education. They're going to use this money for startup costs, facilities, teacher training. It's targeted money to help high-performing schools grow quickly, and then they can reach more kids. It's not just another blank check that bloats the bureaucracy.
Okay, let's look now at free speech on college campuses. It's now in the spotlight following Charlie Kirk's death. In your view, has this free speech climate shifted, if at all, since his passing on college campuses?
I really want to talk about Charlie Kirk because he was one of the greatest encouraging voices when it came to free speech. And as a lifelong liberal, I started listening to Charlie in 2018, and he helped change how I thought. And he did that for millions of other young Americans too. He wasn't some hypocrite or hollow provocateur. He was very good at persuading and encouraged people to speak up. He didn't just hold opinions. He made those opinions contagious. So for many of us, Charlie wasn't extreme. He pulled back the curtain on things that we've been taught our whole lives and then convinced a whole generation to question them. That's really powerful. That's why his death feels like an attack on free speech, not just on one man, but on a movement that actually changed minds. They didn't kill Charlie for his opinions. They killed him because his ideas caught fire, and that's what scared them.
So what steps, if any, should educational institutions take, or even individuals, to rebuild trust around political expression and ideological diversity on campus?
I think the radicalization doesn't happen in a vacuum, and it's taught. And in K through 12, students are fed these identity politics instead of basic academics, and they're taught one side. This kind of left-wing point of view. By the time they reach college, they're dropped into institutions that stopped being places of learning decades ago. And it started back in the 1960s in the free speech movement, and it continued on from there. So today, instead of building critical thinking, these colleges are churning out these embittered graduates that are steeped in ideology. And that's why the Gallup poll shows that in just 15 years, those who say a college education is very important is from 75% down to 35%, which is a collapse of trust. So the Trump administration coming out with this anti-indoctrination legislation, I think, is a way to warn the schools that you need to rein it in a little bit.
And just lastly, what do you think the education sector needs more broadly that may not be perhaps discussed enough in the public sphere?
They need to talk about where a college education is worth it, right? So for some fields like medicine, engineering, college is still essential. But for the average student, the return on investment has collapsed. And half of Gen Z graduates are underemployed. They work at jobs that don't require their degree. And then 3/4 state that are stuck there for a decade. So if you add six-figure debt, you've got a broken promise. So the trust has collapsed, and we need to figure out a new way to allow, as you brought up, free speech to be allowed on campuses. But instead of making this about indoctrination, encourage people to just have open conversations. Don't teach people to be one certain way. Have a Socratic way where you can have people come together and talk about what's most important to them instead of seeming like they're coming out as activists.
Many opportunities to rebuild trust on various fronts within the education sector. Thank you so much for your time today, Aaron Boxer.
Thanks for having me.